I guess I'm going to have to call this Rapture Part 2, even though I can't go back and correct the first tape and call it Rapture 1. Because of a scripture in Matthew 24:27 that a lot of you pro-rapture people like to use. Just a word of note about rapture. Uh, with a capricious God or anybody with any kind of level of sanity, rapture a bunch of people off a planet and let everything go to hell. Maybe the guy's driving a plane or driving a car. I mean, is that? I mean, sometimes you have to use some very simple common sense uh, along with your ways of figuring out whether things are correct or not. When as you do, you're stumbling around. Most of you want to get your basic salvation. The hell with everybody else. Hey, I'm going to heaven. I'm going on the starship. I'm going to get raptured, and then never do any research. To find out whether these things are so. Having not even been able to know how to crawl, or even walk or run. You guys want to go straight to the meat of the matter. You want to go right in the book of Revelation and read your books by your various authors. And we got it all figured out. It's right there in black and white. Here it is. Well, here's the scripture in Matthew 24:27. It says, "For as the light cometh out of the east and shineth even unto the west, so shall the coming of the Son of Man." But notice the word "for as." So in other words, this is like an example. For as is like a parable, like as the light cometh out of the east and shineth unto the west. But I looked at these words a little bit more carefully, and they're similes to other things. Like for the coming could also be like a light that gleams and casts a lot of light going from the east to the west. And then the east to the west thing sort of had a slur on this alpha omega thing, beginning and last. Is that its presence, and that's the interesting word. See, the other word coming is not the same as the word cometh in terms of its root form. It's the word parousia, meaning his presence. Where two or three gather together in my name, there am I in the midst of them. There is my presence. It's probably a spin on the thing that happened in Daniel where Meshach, Shack, and Abednego, whatever the hell the names are, they run that furnace. That the fourth one that appeared was likened unto the Son of Man. Of course, it was supposed to be a reference to Jesus. So, what I see in this thing is that the coming is something that's graduating a span of time, and that's the coming of the Son of Man. It's a graduation of it's a gradual thing, and it's going to spread from the east to the west, which basically it did anyway. It started out in the east, in the Middle East or in Israel, and now it's all over the world. And of course, if you want to get technical, if you go far enough east or far enough west, you come back to the same place again. So I see this coming as just a recapitulation of the walk or the way or the from the beginning to the end, the Alpha and the Omega, the Father and Mother. And if it's not that, then we can at least identify that it probably has historical value from the east to the west. But still, no, he's using the word "for as." It's a simile. It's not a direct comparison. It's a simile of something else, or what you might also call an acronym. And then the kickoff word here that brings it in a different perspective is the word "coming" of the Son of Man. Now, the Son of Man. The word "man" here doesn't mean like you and I'm a man, somebody else is a man. I'm not talking about that. The man here is a really reference to Israel. Of course, we go back to the Genesis. A man shall leave his father and mother, see, and shall draw unto his wife. Blah blah blah. That man should have been Israel, and then later on. Jesus took up the slack, and then we're grafted in, and those of us who believe through Christ, blah blah blah. So we become the new Israel. We're the new Israel that comes down from Jerusalem. We're the new heavens and earth. All these statements were in the book of Revelation. If you read carefully in the beginning part, he says, He deals with things which have already transpired, which are right now and are yet to be. Even the thing about the, I don't know, he said that he saw the a third of the heavens of the stars fall to earth when well, wasn't that the same thing that Daniel saw? And I think there's some allusions to this in either Ezekiel or the Psalms, of which David only wrote probably conservatively at the best 20%, if not less than that, 10% of the Psalms. Most of the Psalms were written by other people. So another thing too is that we're here on this earth to see if we can make it work. This is the stepping stone. So that's why he says, earth is a footstool and heaven is his throne. And the back of 3:3 was somehow effectively say the earth was full of his praise and the heavens was full of his glory. They're not just colorful statements. The praise word is a reference to Judah, referring to government, and also perhaps referring in kind to the Jewish nation or Jewish fellow man. The Jews are to inherit the earth, and the Gentiles, which comes out in the Knock translation, K-N-A-C-K, which you can get everywhere on the West Coast, bears out that the heavens is a reference to the galaxies and heavens above us. We inherit all the rest of that. And now these guys at like Heaven's Gate, and this other group over, well, the Egyptians for that matter, they were sort of very close to that subject matter. They thought that the king died, his spirit would go into the rock at the foot of his bed. That's what they called animism. And then in time he would transfer through the hole in the pyramid. In this case, he was going to go to the star of the brightest star in the solar system, which is in the belt of Orion, called Pollux. And but the heavens has since gone through a transition of 15 degrees, so that part of the opening of the pyramid doesn't go there anymore, which is another interesting point. The building of the pyramids match up with the Edgar Cayce account at the pyramids. Cheops were built 10,500 BC, and that was, I think, during the time of Middle Kingdom, if I'm not correct. The other historians place Middle Kingdom around 3600 BC. Just a slight error, just off by 7,000 years. That ain't much. It's very trivial. So anyway, these guys were thinking that when they died, they would go to the heavens and that kind of thing, and then the Heaven's Gate people were looking for this Bopop comet to come in, and they were going to die, and then their spirits were going to send up and catch the comet and go to their rightful destination. I mean, it makes some sense, and it has some roots in antiquity, but it also is really part of today's Christian gospel. The Mormons seem to be more in tune with this sort of subject matter, but whether or not we're really actively thinking about what the potentials are, all we're thinking about is that everything's here on this earth, and that the reason is we're going to die, we're going to go up in heaven, we're going to play harps, and have a good old time. And of course, the Muslims are going to do a step better. They're not just going to go to heaven; they're going to have real heaven like they would on earth, and they're going to have themselves 28 virgins. Maybe the most of those virgins are the Christians. The virginal thinking down here will keep them the same way when they go up. I'm just making a joke there, but this all sort of like a spin on deism. By the way, Isaac Newton's deism, thought the fundies are the same way. Jesus is going to come. He wasn't around all this time, and now they're going to go to heaven, and of course God's not around anymore, and we'll just have to wait. We'll go up to heaven, and that's it. I mean, that's what you were brought in the flesh for, so you could go back back to spirit realm. So that means everything else here just goes to hell. Give it to the wicked. It sounds like a spin on Jehovah's Witness stuff. But planet's going to be burning up and all that stuff. Well, it may burn up, provided you don't pay attention. But eventually someone will come in and pay attention, and there's still a lot of time yet to get it accomplished. The remnant will always make the pass.